All right, good evening, everybody. Do a little live stream tonight. It is February 16th. You know how I am about checking those dates? Yes, it's the 16th, 2024. And we are looking very springy outside. The daffodils are out. The crocus are out. I saw leaves emerging on some goji berry today. And the darned calorie pears are starting to have their buds swell out. So not as happy to see that, but that's the project that never quite ends around here. Good evening, Mr. A. Got bangers rolling through. Hopefully you're not talking about gang bangers, but maybe just thunder. We call them boombas. Do you have words? I'm sure you guys have words that your dogs say, and then you end up saying them too. Well, Trip calls thunder the boombas, so that's how we refer to it around here. Yeah, I guess we're gonna storm. Whatever, it happened. Man, I lit some incense in here, and it is like blowing up because that was just the vibe. That was just the vibe that I was feeling. I was having the second half of my day feeling aggravated and out of sorts for no particular reason, which always compounds those particular feelings. Nothing like being pissed and you can't even really put your finger on why. But we'll push through that. So a couple of little bit of quick housekeeping here before I forget and get too far down the list. If you guys are in the Knoxville, Tennessee area, or feel like driving a little bit to come visit us, we are having our quarterly gathering, spring gathering on March 3rd. That's a Sunday, noon till about 4 o'clock. Might hang out a little longer afterwards if I'm down for it, and if I'm not, I'll walk you to your car. We will do a tour. We will do some fellowship and some food. If the weather cooperates, we'll have a little campfire, and people can bring stuff to barter if they would like. So that is going to be Howdy Cormac. That is going to be Sunday, March 3rd. Holler at me, strongrootsresources@gmail.com, so I can get you the address and directions. We had the forage walk last week, so we did it on Saturday, so the day after last live stream, and I tell you guys, it was awesome. This was the first class that I set up specifically here on the land as a foraging class. We've kind of had a lot of unofficial, and we've done them at some of the other gatherings, but this was the first time I had advertised the class, put it out for people to find. Had about 10 folks show up, which was about the number that I wanted. It kind of wavered back and forth. Some people had to cancel. Some people jumped in the last minute, so it worked out. We had about 10 people up here, and we walked around for about 2.5 hours, followed a little route that I had made to point out some particular things, and we had a great time. And what was really something is that we were pretty much getting rained on the whole time, just kind of a little steady rain, not real bad, but not super pleasant either. But folks had a great time, asked a lot of questions. My friend Andy was here, and she is a pretty thoroughly trained herbalist. So I kind of kick questions over to her. I'm good at finding the plants, knowing a little bit about the plants, and then she knows more about how to prepare the plant for various uses if we're looking at medicinal stuff. So that was a great partnership. Got to spend some time with some neat people. It was one of those crowds where like everybody was cool. I'm sure you guys have been in places where like every now and again, I swear I'm not token in here. I promise. Look, I lit 2, and it's incense. I swear. But anyhow, I had a couple of ladies who were out here who have followed up with me and would like me to assist them. One with some gardening work, and some design work, and actually both of them for design work, and one of them more so in the realm of some installation work as well, it sounds like. So I have got the calendar is starting to get, I don't want to say full, but the calendar is starting to get filled out again. So that's nice. Let me take a second here and say howdy, everybody. We got Mr. Ping in here. Good to see you, Mr. Ping. And Digger, if you have a minute, I cannot remember where you are, so feel free to drop your general location. And if you've told me before, I'm sorry. Let's see what's Lots Project says, covering up the smell. Pooch must have gotten into a skunk. Trip has gotten into a skunk before, but not recently. I just thought, it would just be a nice little touch, but now it's just kind of wearing me out. So, yes, the foraging walk was a success. I was very happy with how it went. I will continue to do that. I'm going to try to get at least one a month on the calendar. I'm pretty sure spring, summer, and fall, it'll make sense to do a couple of them as I can fit them in for between some of the travel I plan to be doing for some of the events that I'm going to. Digger is in Central Illinois. We have got friends in Nate and Aaron from Two Chicks Homestead. If you're not familiar with them, look them up. I don't know exactly what part of the state they in, but they are in the great state of Illinois. So good to have you. I appreciate you hanging out. Yeah, I need exact coordinates and where you hide your guns. So wherever you cache your guns, that's what I need to know if you're going to be in the comments. We'll do more foraging walks. That's just a given. I enjoyed them, and I'm thinking, man, if people came out in crappy weather and had a great time, and then we're going to keep doing it. And even I was about maybe 90 minutes into the walk, and I took a minute and I was like, guys, if we need to take a break and go sit up in the high tunnel for a little bit, we can do that. I don't want you guys to be miserable. And I don't want you to be following me around just because you feel like you ought to. But everybody's like, no, let's keep going. So that's how you know how you're surrounded with some pretty cool folks. So we'll keep rolling with that. In additional news, unrelated to foraging and completely unrelated to this business, I earned my 4th stripe on my white belt in jiu-jitsu. I have been training just under 2 years now. May will be 2 years. And I came into jiu-jitsu with absolutely no martial arts training of any sort ever. I played a few sports here and there. I am reasonably athletic, but I'm also kind of uncoordinated and awkward at the same time, if it's possible to put those two things together. But a friend introduced me to it. I found a local gym what I really liked. I liked everybody. I liked the vibe and all. And I have stuck with it. And I hit at least 2 classes a week. I try to get 3 and at least one day, one open mat on the weekend. And it's been awesome. So a bunch of us got awarded new stripes earlier this week. And so if you're not familiar with the way the belts work, your white belt, that is your first belt, your beginner belt. And when you have received your 4th stripe, once you have completed that portion, you receive your blue belt. So I fully expect to have another year of training under my belt before coach even thinks about giving me a blue belt. I know I have an idea of what he expects me to be able to do reasonably well before that. And I'm not motivated by the belts and the stripes at all. I've made a real point of I'm only competing against myself. I am twice the age of the vast majority of the class. So that's just kind of, I am neither more limber or faster. I'm not even stronger than most of them. I am aiming to be smart and technical. That's where I'm going to be able to be strongest and do well. It also does not seem, at least at this point, does not seem to matter to coach whether or not we go out and compete, because I just don't feel like at this point, with everything I'm doing to grow the business and take care of the homestead, I'm not going to be able to add competitions to to everything else that's on my shoulders. So I will just continue to train as a hobbyist and enjoy it, and just get down there and wrestle on the floor with my friends, because we enjoy beating the crap out of one another. So appreciate your all's kind wishes on that. It was I wasn't expecting it, and it's not anything. Coach doesn't make a big ceremony or anything. In fact, it's kind of funny. He's just like, we'll wrap up some drills and be like, okay, you have 4 stripes, you have 4 stripes, you've got your 3rd, you've got your 1st, and and you're a blue belt now. and that's how it is, because we don't train in the gi, so we don't have the whole jacket and pants and all that. We train in rash guards for the most part. So nobody actually has a belt on. So unless you ask, you usually don't know, unless you already know the person, what their rank is in a lot of cases. There are, so it's white, blue, purple, brown, black, 5 belts, with each belt having 4 stripes. So that was cool. That was a nice little boost. And what was funny was that I got the promotion on one of those days where I was just absolutely riding the struggle bus all throughout drills. It was like I had never done it before in my life. I don't know what my deal was, but I just could not get my shit together. And so that was kind of like, well, it's good to be acknowledged that everybody notices that I've continued to show up and train. So in farm news, I don't have any more sheep yet. I don't know what they're waiting on. I guess it'll happen when it happens. I mean, some of them literally look like they don't even feel like walking around right now. But everybody looks fine. Everybody looks healthy. So I guess lambs will come when lambs will come. Earlier, this was actually last week, I asked my brother if he could help me get a roll of hay down to him with his bobcat. He's got a skid steer, and he said, yeah. So we met up there, and he took it down there. I got it wrapped up in the corral and everything I used to keep them from climbing all over the bale. And Tyler's like, all right, it's time for you to learn how to drive this thing. And I don't actually enjoy operating equipment all that much. I was not one of those kids where I was wowed by big machinery and things. I was the one up in the tree reading the book. But Tyler had a good point. I need to learn how to drive the dang thing. So I got about a 20-minute lesson on it, and he had me up around the wood pile using the forks to lift up big pieces of wood, and how to tilt and how to anchor them, and how to go get the giant log that got away from me and rolled downhill. Some basic turns and things. I've messed around a little bit with some equipment. Our friend Alan up in Clarksville had Angel and I out a couple of years ago, and showed me how to run a dingo and some a mini excavator, and I think a skid steer too. So it wasn't the absolute first time, but I tell you, I can kind of see how you could fall in love with the thing, because man, can you get some work done in a hurry with the benefit of hydraulics. So I'm sure Tyler will want me to do a little more supervised work, but he was like, yeah, not bad. So it's so funny, because he was, I had to have him giving me hand signals, because I can't hear him over the machine. And and it's just, it's joystick style, and then your foot pedals raise the boom and tip the bucket and all that good stuff. So I could see myself getting more comfortable to use it here on the farm. I don't anticipate getting to where I want to be running equipment, except maybe on like a friend's project. Probably not for like paying customers and stuff. I'm liability adverse. So, and also I don't plan to scale the business in that direction, frankly. So, but it's good to know. It's good stuff to know, because you never know when you might just need to run a bobcat. Yeah, Brian, that's how Tyler was growing up. I mean, he was all about that stuff. He still is. A lot of guys are. And like I said, I got a little bit of the, you know, a taste of it, so I get it. But I feel like it might be the noise. I'm real adverse to things that are really loud now. So, you know, sirens and engines running all the time and all that kind of did me in. So I think that's kind of why I tend to keep my distance. But if work needs to get done, work will get done. Also, speaking of sheep, if you guys did not catch it, Brian and I on the Lots Project talked about the sheep program that we're doing out here. I think I dropped that episode into the notes. If not, go over to his channel and check it out. We covered quite a bit of ground on how I found this partnership with Marcy, what my role is, what her role is, how it goes, you know, how it all comes together, because it's something that if you have land and you need animals on it, there are probably people in your area that you could build a relationship with and do something similar. And it saves you a lot of the initial risk and investment involved in infrastructure, the animals themselves, you know, all that. So take a look at that. And I'm a little bit sad to say that I don't have a This Week in Marketplace story. I double checked. And I just renewed the listing, so I may get some more interest over the weekend for what I have listed there. But I did get a bunch of stuff. I did get a bunch sold and shipped out last week too, and I've got Jamie's order tonight that I'm going to get out tomorrow. So got plenty available still. If you're looking for Nova elderberry cuttings, I will pack a flat rate envelope for you and send it your way. So feel free to holler at me. It's if you're new to getting stuff rooted, I don't think anything is more forgiving than elderberry. And it's just it's kind of like you sort of feel like a superhuman when you see these start to propagate themselves. It's really encouraging. So have you guys ever sat around and bitched because you're like, man, I really need this thing or this kind of infrastructure. I need something to help me achieve this task. And you're like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do about it. I don't want to spend the money on it right now. And for me, this has been, I've never really had, since we've been here, a great place to get seeds started. I'll do a couple little shelves here and there. It's too cold in the shop this time of year. And there's no room in the cabin. I've got potatoes. I've got sweet potatoes in water behind the wood stove. But there's really just no space. So I don't start a ton of seeds. I just start them. I wait until we're really warm, and I pretty much just start them outside on a grow shelf outside. And then one day I was standing in my backyard and I was looking at this 8x12 structure we have down there, which is fully enclosed in hardware cloth and framed in and has a clear corrugated roof on it. And we've used it as a turkey coop. And then we were talking about using it as a rabbit hutch, but hadn't gotten there yet. And we've talked about using it as a quail aviary, and that hadn't happened because I just don't want to add more animals right now. And I looked at that and I was like, I have trim and I have clear greenhouse plastic left over from another job. I should wrap it in plastic, and now I have a place to start seeds. So I did. And if you go over, should be just a few posts down on my Facebook page. I've got pictures of it up. So a couple of days ago, I got the plastic on, put the trim on the next day, and it's really warm in there. And of course, I don't have supplemental heat, but I've got my grow lights. Those will go in. I've got shelving, and most importantly, I just have the space. So that came about with really good timing because I've got a customer, the lady I've been doing all the food forest rehab work, and she would like some help getting seeds started. And we're kind of going to, been doing a lot of barter and stuff. So now I can get seeds started for both her garden, mine, and if I have leftovers, I'll share or swap with somebody. And as well, my good friend Erin, she is getting married in May, and she wants to grow as much of her flowers for her wedding as possible. Now we've got a place to do it. And I had a little bit of seed. She brought some more because she's got a May 1st wedding. So we're going to have to do stuff that we can get that's going to flower early and can work as a cut flower. And I'm actually not, when it comes to annual flowers, I'm one of those, I scatter seed everywhere and cool stuff comes up and I might look it up later, but I don't have like vast knowledge about cut flowers. So she brought a bunch of seed. We've got some Colin Blend stock. I don't really know what that is, but it's very pretty. We got poppies. I know what poppies are. Something called Love in a Mist, which is kind of a neat, almost kind of looks a little bit like fennel leaf. Some bluebonnet, larkspur, columbine, delphinium, sweet pea, more colors of poppies. And then I've got a bunch of these blends from, I love the dollar store blends. These work great, by the way. Don't be afraid of dollar store seed. There's nothing wrong with that. So we are going to get seed started this weekend. They're going to come out on Sunday, and we're going to sift out the compost that I use as potting soil because it retains water really well. Not too well, but well enough. Doesn't dry out instantly. And yeah, we're gonna get those seeds started, and then I'll kind of look after them, and then we'll do some bed prep to grow them. We're actually going to grow them down just below Mom's house. We're not going to grow them up here where we are. Mom had kind of offered up this spot for if people wanted to come grow flowers or things. It's just a lower field, and we don't do much with it other than I had the sheep on it back in the fall. So I think Tyler's going to till it, since we're just going to cut flowers, and then I'll probably just cover crop back over it again. I'm not going to try to go through everything of building up a no-till system, but it'll work. It's full sun. We can get water to it easy enough. And Tim says, why people love cut and annual flowers. There are multiple people here who have full-time flower businesses doing that. And I know, like, you got places, that, if you provide for funerals and weddings and birthdays and the hospitals, I mean, I guess you can just make some cash, but I'd like to be able to eat what I grow. That's pretty much how I feel about it. Good to see Backwoods Butcher here tonight. Let me back up here for a second. Brian was saying, yes, a couple of 55-gallon drum with water as a heat sink. I might be able to do that. It's such a small structure. I'm trying not to take up too much space in there, but I might be able to do them in front and then have some glazing so it's attached to the building. So I've got it. It's going to get full sun at the front. So I might be able to do something like that, attach some glazing and let that heat come up into the structure. And I do have some drums, and I could do that. We'll see how quickly I can get to it. But yeah, so Erin and I are gonna, and her fiance are gonna come out, and we're gonna get some flowers started. And she said, if nothing else, if we could just grow enough that she could have a bouquet, she would be happy. But we're gonna try to grow enough that we can decorate all the tables too. Table bases? What do you mean? Table bases? Yeah, let me know what you mean, Brian. Cormac had something to say back here. Oh, marketplace story. I had a guy turn up with euros, not British pounds. Is that what that stands for? And you have to send him to the bureau to convert it. That's weird. Yeah, that just seems, you got to wonder about people sometimes. Oh, use the drums as table bases. Well, isn't that just the most beautiful permaculture solution? I don't think they'd be too tall. I didn't think about that. Yeah, I think that could be viable. I think you're onto something there. All right. All right. Well, to-do list grows. Because I'm going to put a gutter on it too. I'm going to put a gutter because I was going to collect rainwater off the end of it anyhow. So I have rainwater right there for watering things. But why don't I just divert the gutter? Well, I don't constantly want cold water coming in, but I see what you're saying. That's totally workable. Can do that. I just put out a video today on elderberry. It's about 5 or 6 minutes, kind of going over how you propagate it, how you get your cuttings in the ground, how to essentially, I called it the empire of elderberry because you literally could. This stuff propagates itself so well. When I take once I've sold everything that's going to be sold, and I still have stuff that needs to be pruned, I just take elderberry cuttings all over the place and just tuck them in everywhere. And then I feel like I will, at that point, they're just going to naturalize and they're just going to be part of the landscape, which I would rather have over privet. Backwoods got planting plans. I guess some hickory, walnut, and apple trees to plant around the field to get some silvopasture for the pigs. Yep, I hear you. This pasture that is just below the cabin has some things that I want to retain, and so there's like oaks that I've been mowing around that I've staked and corralled so I don't run over them, and there's of course, there's the sassafras, the sumac. There's some red maples, so just all kinds of things. And yeah, we're kind of doing the same thing. And of course, that'll include when they get shipped to me the fodder tree system as well. So I keep trying to tell more and more people about silvopasture and fodder tree systems. You don't have to clear cut everything, and you don't have to if you're dealing with forested land and you want to be able to run pigs through it the way Backwoods is describing, then it's no big deal. It's no big deal to just selectively cut, open up your canopy a little bit so you can get a little more action going on in the understory, and you provide these trees that release mast of nuts and stuff for your omnivores. So yes, speaking of elderberry, and you guys need to check out Brian's videos too when he gets it out. I know he mentioned it on the podcast, but I sent a bunch over to Delinquent's Gully, and you can look forward to some elderberry at your campsite. They're actually a really nice screening tree. You can plant them like a hedge, and you can plant them 2, 3, 4 feet apart, and before long they fill in beautifully. So you can really have some nice privacy. It gives a lot of considerable amount of shade, really. Around here, I've noticed that the rabbits really like to use it as cover. Once they're fully leafed out, there will always be like bunnies and bunnies and bunnies. And the thing is the bunnies don't seem to mess with it. So I've got enough that even if they did chew on it, I don't think they could kill it. But yeah, I'm actually working on one of the designs that I'm working on right now for a lady. I went and met with her earlier in the week. She's got an approximately 100 by 100 foot space that is behind her home, and beyond that, she now has neighbors where she used to have a pasture, where there used to be a pasture, and somebody bought it and they moved in, and they want their privacy back. So we're actually planning a blend of both screening trees and like wildlife habitat supporting trees. So we're looking at some wax myrtles, some elderberry, some American plum. We're going to do some flowering trees in there like redbud, some small shrubs like lilac, and I think it'll be really pretty. I sent a proposal to her a couple of days ago with kind of just a general layout, and some sources as to where to find and purchase everything. And then when she's ready, uh, I will go, like before she actually orders the trees, I will go back out there and we will flag everything off, and she'll have a flag to designate where each and everything is going to go, and that way we can double check spacing and all that. This is why I don't really do mapping. Frankly, I'm not very good at it when it comes to planting plans, so that's why I like to be able to just go back out, walk the property with the customer, flag everything off, measure if we need to, and it just seems to work, and I get good feedback from people doing it that way. Yep, lilac is beautiful here. We have 2 lilac shrubs in our front beds, and that's kind of in with all my perennials and more comfrey and pollinator stuff and all that. And yeah, lilac is beautiful here. I love it. It does take a while. We had one. It does take a while to bloom. We had one at the Urban Homestead, and it was one of those, I ordered it from like Gurney's or something, and it took until about its 3rd year before it would bloom. But they do bloom, and they're beautiful, and they get really big. They are summertime bloomers. They are just starting to have a little bit of bud swell right now, and then they will bloom. I think it's like June and July, maybe a little sooner, maybe late May. But yeah, but they do great here. They're very hardy, and they get huge. I've got a customer who has one at the corner of his. It's actually like the northwest, or rather, yeah, northwest corner of his house. And I mean, it's huge. It's the size of a tree. It gets as big as a mulberry. So they do great here. Nice. Yeah, they can get huge. I love lilac. It's one of Angel's favorites too, which is why I made sure to get more lilac out here when we moved. Catch up with the chat here real quick. Nice. All right. Ping's got hickory nuts and black walnuts out there at his spot, and Backwoods is looking at rotating critters to fix up the fields. Yeah, I hear you. There's just spending, now that I'm spending regular amounts of time in these pastures that I was only looking at, a couple of times a month before having the animals on it. It's amazing how quickly they start to fix stuff. Some nitrogen and carbon and some poop and all that. It really goes a long way. And because I'm weird, I was walking around a field earlier today where they were in this field in like October, and I'm picking up donkey turds, which at this point are mostly just grass bits and seed. So pretty much grass seed goes through the donkey. It does not get sterilized. And I was just kind of breaking it up with my hand, and I was like, this is great. This is better than, things going to seed on their own. So I'm really excited to see how this stuff does. I hope we don't get too dry this year. I think that's going to be a big thing. I'm going to just keep fingers crossed that we don't get super dry, and that things struggle again. I actually was kind of running around quite a bit this week getting I'm very hands-on playing with donkey turds, very hands-on. I like to pick them up when they're fresh, but these are like pretty dry. These are like biscuits at this point, I went down to the Sevierville area, which is south of us, and did a consult with a lady and her gentleman who are working on getting more native plantings back into their yard. I've got a pretty good lead on a number of local suppliers here for that sort of stuff. So we basically sat there with inventory sheets. Not all of it's available yet, of course, but it will be. And talked about what they felt would, fit kind of the aesthetic they had in mind, and the color palette and all that. So I've got a proposal to write up for them. So there's one that'll be on the books before too long. And then I've got another similar consult that I wrapped up the notes for a couple of days ago. So it's picking up. We've had that warm up, and everybody starts going outside again, and they're looking at their yard, and they're just ready to fluff it up, as it were. Howdy, Margot. Thanks for dropping in. Margot got some elderberry, but she has sand in her yard because she lives in Florida. So keep us posted on how those do in pots, but they should do fine. What else we got tonight, guys? Had quite a bit of good discussions in the Telegram group lately. If you're not in the group and you'd like to be, the invite link is in the show notes. We talk about pretty much whatever. It is a lot of land design type stuff, and lots of Q&A in terms of addressing landscape issues, erosion issues. So just these last couple of days, we've been helping talk through with Jamie on his too much water winding up at the greenhouse. So we have all thrown out a variety of ways to address that. Talking about dealing with some erosion. It's not uncommon around here. You will see people who have nothing but red clay, and they try to keep it seeded, or they try to plant in it. And a lot of things with small roots really struggle with red clay. They just can't dig in. Everything will just wash. So at that point, you pretty much have to start rebuilding the soil structure if you want anything to take hold that's not something big and rooted like a tree or large shrubs. So if you've got hillsides or washouts and stuff, first you need to figure out why so much water is hitting that to begin with, and try to deal with that. And then you need to get into rebuilding the soil. So around here, it's that time of year with as much rain as we have, where erosion problems can really show up. And I've just always felt like the bottom line is, don't ever leave soil bare as soon as you possibly can. If you've had to excavate for a job or a home site or anything like that, just, even if all you can get to at the moment is throwing a bunch of wheat straw on it, that is better than exposed soil. I forget how much it is by tonnage or whatever, but the biggest export of that America has is soil into the Mississippi River, and consequently into the Gulf of Mexico. We're literally washing our nutrients down into the ocean, and that causes a giant chain reaction of issues for all kinds of people and critters. I don't know where Amy came from. I do have a lot of Amy's in my life, but what can I say? I think I got you guys caught up on the news in the week, really. I realized that I haven't really put out a video specifically on my background and how I have come to do what I do and why, and how I know what I know. So this might be as good a time as any. I was involved in a discussion recently this week on the good old Facebook, where a fellow wanted to know what I felt made me qualified to give people advice and guidance on working on their landscape. So I said as much. So for you guys and for the audience and whoever watches this in the far future, here's how I got to where I am today. I have grown up in East Tennessee. I have lived, I grew up on the same property that I live now, but I did spend about 16 years away from it in my early adulthood, between college, early career, and then the urban homestead that you guys have heard about. And I'll expand upon that in a minute. So the land where I'm at now is the land where I spent the first 20 years of my life as well. So I was here for 20 years, and then I came back about 4 years ago. In the interim, minus a year of living in an apartment, I had a little 1/5 acre city lot in North Knoxville, where, as a response to the stress and the desire to have nothing to do with working on an ambulance when I was not on an ambulance, I became obsessed with turning it into a highly productive space, combined with the appropriate amount of wildlife and ecological support at the same time. And I was probably doing this for 3 or 4 years before I realized that permaculture had a name and had a design science behind it. I think I ran across the term permaculture probably through Joel Salatin, or possibly Jack Spirko. I was listening to Jack and reading all of Joel's books at pretty much, I discovered them at almost exactly the same time. I was a big fan of going to the library, and we have a pretty awesome downtown library, and I found Joel's books, and I think I've read them all. I own several, and I'm pretty sure I've read them all at this point. Some of them I've read more than once. Because at the time, while we were living in the city, some part of me knew that we would be returning to the family land. We just weren't sure at what point in our lives we would be doing that. And so I've always had it in the back of my mind that I wanted to begin to restore and get this land healthy and productive again. So over time, I became really into putting systems together, thinking about things in ways of function stacking, and getting a big return on less input, and doing things in a way that was inexpensive, that involved repurposing materials, recycling materials. I was big into dumpster diving and picking up stuff on the curb. And I was doing this through a time where I was making $10, $12 an hour in an ambulance. And that's about, the Angel made about the same amount working at the hospital. So we were by no means, flush with a bunch of expendable income. And this was something that I could do that really didn't affect our income. I mean, yes, we produce food, and of course that helped, but it wasn't an expensive hobby, is what I'm trying to say. And once I discovered the principles and the ethics of permaculture, I was just like, wow, this is incredible. This is something that I can apply to multiple facets of my life, not just how I design my property. And I did this for years and never told anybody about it. I did it. I had no YouTube channel. I did not have a Facebook page for anything. I think I started a Facebook page for the homestead like a year or two before we moved out. And so, and I just studied it incessantly. And when I wasn't working, that was my hobby. That was what I did. And it meant everything to me. And, over time, people in the neighborhood, we were on a street that was very walkable. People would walk by and they were just like, wow, this is incredible. And, I was, I had these fruit trees in the front yard, and I had built these guilds, and I had all these, I had 2 different ponds, and I had 2 different kinds of composting systems, and we had the chickens and we had the quail. And, I converted our deck into a greenhouse, and we fixed up the shop and turned a kind of dilapidated shed into a pretty decent woodworking shop. We had a lot going on, and we basically lived not too different than we live now. We had a wood burning stove. I harvested my own firewood. I processed my own firewood. We got our energy consumption way down in a time when rates were really going up. We just basically lived this frugal lifestyle, and we were into it. That was the thing. This was not, it certainly helped. I would have had to have worked more to support a different kind of lifestyle. I didn't want to work more. I wanted to work as little as I had to so I could do the things that I enjoyed doing. And then as I got into my 30s, and my friends started, starting families and buying houses, they started asking me if I could help them with their property because they saw the cool things we were doing. And I'm like, that's cool too. And then as I left EMS and started going more, I was basically doing property maintenance work, light landscaping, mowing, and that kind of thing. Inevitably, when you do a good job, customers tend to ask, well, what other services do you offer? And so I explained what I did at home, and they're like, that's awesome. And so I started helping them design properties, and it has grown from here. And eventually it made sense that I needed to start telling other people about it. That's how it works when you decide to make a living at something like that. And I found that I really wanted to engage with the community who were focused on being fully present in their own lives and not outsourcing a bunch of stuff to all these other corporations and entities. So that's what I consider homesteading to be. Homesteading to me is doing as much as you can do for yourself that you want to do. There's a lot of stuff that I don't do for myself. There's still, I still have to earn money to pay for certain things, but my skill set, as my community has grown, my skill set has grown. And as I keep working more with my community, both these things just keep increasing. So when we came back out here, when we decided to move back here in the summer of 2020, I, immediately started taking pretty much every weekend I would come out here. We had figured out where we wanted to put the cabin. And then even while we were waiting on the cabin to be delivered, I was on basically this 10-acre lot every weekend, walking it, thinking about how we could put these systems together, thinking about how I could take what I had learned on a small scale and apply it on a larger scale without stretching myself thin. So, as is wise to do, I started documenting it, talking to other people about it, going to conferences, having conversations with people, and discovered that I do actually enjoy teaching more than I actually enjoy consulting. I'm trying to make this one thing. I prefer to help people understand why it makes sense to do something instead of just telling somebody to do something, if that makes sense. Because it's interesting. I actually don't like telling people what to do. I actually hate being told what to do, and I hate telling people what to do just as much. So what I have learned is that it makes sense for me to help other people understand what's going on within the landscape and how we can leverage that knowledge to develop systems that work for them. So that's what I feel helps me be reasonably qualified to help other people develop their properties. Are there types of projects that I would not want to do? Yes. I am not prepared to work on a very large scale. So if we get beyond several acres, if somebody needed me to do something for hundreds of acres or something that was like a big commercial entity or like a large planned community or something like that, I would definitely defer it, or I would put together a group of the best designers I know and see if they wanted it to be a group effort. And maybe my talents would get focused in a particular area and other people could do other things. So I've got some limitations to my skill set and knowledge once we get up to a very large scale. And I'm okay with that because I actually don't want to operate on that big of a scale. My heart and soul is still helping people design small to medium spaces. So that is what is common in suburbia, is like a half acre up to a couple of acres. I love working with these people, and the vast majority of people that I am working with, and I'm up to almost 50 clients at this point since mid 2020, they're on spaces of that size. So, and one of the reasons is because suburbia is not going anywhere, not within our lifetime. I'm personally not a fan of what suburbia has done to family farmland, but it's here. And if we can teach people how to use their land better in those spaces, everybody wins. So that's where I still really, really enjoy spending my time, especially when I go over to somebody's house and they're just like, I don't have any room to grow any food. And I start talking to them about what can be done, and to see them get excited and get on board. And then we get to work together to create these things. It's tremendously rewarding for me. So, and Brian's calling me a poser. So, it is what it is. I am quite obviously a master at BSing people. So, and thus far, the way I have set up, the vast majority of the way I do consults, is that the folks who sign on with me, I have it set up as it sounds scary to say it, but it's like as a lifetime partner in this, because what I really dislike is feeling like somebody, or rather a client or a customer, feeling like they have to rush to get stuff done before their term with me is over. So there was a short period of time where I was doing like 3 month, 6 month, 1 year agreements. And I realized real quick that wasn't the best option. So basically, when they pay that amount of money, if I am alive, I am helping them continue to build out their systems, because we all, things have to be budgeted for. We have to plan, and frankly, getting in a hurry is where you screw up, and acting out of fear is where you screw up. So that's it. I mean, and as I found, the landscape study, the foraging, the looking at the details of a place, is something that I personally nerd out on quite a bit. And it appears that people like to join me for that level of nerding out as well. So that is a side of the business that I'm going to continue to grow and be able to do here locally more, because ultimately, I'm not going to want to have to travel a ton. I already, limit myself to within 4 hours of Knoxville, because I only consult on a part of the world that I am, intimately familiar with. I would be no good to you in Michigan. I would be no good to you in Florida, but I'm pretty good around here. So let me pause for a real minute here. We got a new person. Howdy. Hippocrates. I had to think about how to say that for a minute. I was about to call you a hippo. Don't want to do that. Hello from Arkansas. Thank you so much for dropping in. Tell your friends. We like to have a good time here and talk about whatever's on our minds on a Friday night. So thank you for stopping in. And if you are not familiar with some of my mates in the chat here, Lots Project is a wonderful podcast and YouTube channel. Off Grid Ping is another fellow to follow. Backwoods Busher is a good fellow to follow. Cormac's in here with Vine Permaculture. So yeah, scan the room and follow these guys as well, because we're all getting stuff done together. We really are. Oh, okay, cool. So you found me from Sean and Jess. Nice. I'm actually going to go see them in a week. I'm going to go out there and we're going to do some garden prep work. I'm going to take the trailer. We're going to load up some goat manure from one of their neighbors, and we're going to get these beds squared away for some growing. So those are Sean and Jess are good folks, and I am glad to know them. If you guys did not catch the story, I met Sean at a gas station near Sunbright, Tennessee. So yeah, I met really cool people doing the off-grid thing completely randomly, not at an event, not, online or whatever, just getting gas. So it's kind of neat how many of us are out there. I remember your email now. All right. Excellent. Yes. And that was incredibly thoughtful. And I've actually got that one starred because it's worth going back and referencing. So thank you very much for taking the time to do that. So guys, that's kind of how Strong Roots Resources came about. The name came to me when I was washing dishes at the old bakery job one day. I actually started the business officially while still employed at the bakery, as as a thing in the back of my mind that I knew I wanted to develop. And here we are, it'll be, let's see, it'll be 5 years in October that it'll be, an official entity. And they say that a lot of businesses fail within 3 years. So I've already beat that. So I'm pretty happy about that. I take my reputation seriously. I take the needs of my customers seriously. So, and none of this would exist if it wasn't for community, if it wasn't for going to Rogue Food Conference and being inspired there right before everything hit the fan in 2020. If it wasn't for going to the Living Free Intensity workshops and starting to build community from that, and then everything that branched off from Self-Reliance Festival to another Rogue Food Conference, the TSP crew, just, it's truly amazing when you think about the series of events that got us all to where we are. So I'm here to put in the work to help you guys with anything that I can. So yeah, we're going to have an anniversary party for too long. I mean, it's really gone fast. It's crazy. I have already been off of the ambulance for 1/3 of the entire time I was on the ambulance. It's crazy how fast it goes. So I appreciate you guys hanging out tonight and listening, and for the contributions. So holler at me if I can help you with anything, and we will see you in a week.